Welcome to the lair of the unknown, my friends. The darkest channel where reality becomes fascination. I am your host, the Dark Lord. Today I will be concluding the discussion surrounding the cannibalistic Wendigo. Of course, as I have already explained, there have been quite a few movies inspired by the legend of the Wendigo, such as 2001's The Wendigo to 2013's The Green Inferno. But none of these films were as infamous and dark as 2021's Antlers, directed by Scott Cooper and produced by Guillermo del Toro. Released around Halloween in 2021, Antlers is entirely based on the legendary Wendigo and gives a very realistic scenario on what in God's name happens when one is possessed by the Wendigo spirit. As I did with The Mothman Prophecies, I will give you a brief summary on the film, but that's it. A school teacher becomes alarmed by a certain student's behavior in class and begins to think he is a victim of physical abuse after seeing drawings he made. However, she does not realize that the situation is far more sinister than she could have ever imagined. And with that, I shall show you the trailer as well.
Is storytelling. Storytelling started with our indigenous people. Can anyone give me an example of a myth or a story they're afraid of? Lucas. What's going on?
We found a part of a man in the woods today.
Part of the man?
I guess the other half was found in the mine. All this has got to be an animal, right? No animal that I've ever seen.
Something is going on with Lucas. These drawings belong to a student of mine.
This is what was in the mine. It's a diabolical spirit.
Excuse me, this is a myth.
For you, yeah.
He's not your responsibility.
He has no one. He is my responsibility.
He'll come for me. He needs me. He's here.
Another character that might have been inspired by the Wendigo is none other than the infamous Hannibal the Cannibal Lecter, which was mainly introduced in 1991's The Silence of the Lambs. Let's take a peek at that movie as well.
But are you strong enough to point that high-powered perception at yourself? What about it? Why don't you look at yourself and write down what you see? Maybe you're afraid to.
A census taker once tried to test me. I ate his liver with some fava beans and a nice Chianti.
The Silence of the Lambs is definitely one of my all-time favorite movies, as Hannibal Lecter, just like Jeffrey Dahmer, also shows signs of Wendigo psychosis. But also like Jeffrey Dahmer, it was never put in a situation where he's forced to eat human flesh, but craves it more than regular food. There was also a prequel film released in 2007 based on the origins of Hannibal Lecter and what caused him to go from a sweet boy to a cannibalistic monster, and whether or not the Wendigo had anything to do with these situations. This movie was called Hannibal Rising. Let's watch the trailer for that one now.
Is your name Hannibal Lecter? Do you recall the events that led to your family's murder? The little boy Hannibal died out in that snow. He was raised in a work camp.
Let's hear you scream, little master.
What he is now, there's no word for it.
Do you have any guilty knowledge of the death of Paul Momun?
Guilty knowledge? I found them. The men who killed my family.
He was killed in the woods where your family died.
His face had been eaten. Now tell me, Inspector. You lost family in the war.
Yes.
Did you catch who did it?
No.
Then we are both suspects.
It's Lecter. He's tracking them down one by one.
If they catch Hannibal, they'll shoot him.
Stop now. Forgive them.
Never.
Good evening, Inspector.
This movie does in fact show you a situation where human beings are forced to eat a human child to avoid starvation during a freezing winter. And not only that, but the movie's beginning is set during the closing days of World War II and what the vicious Nazis facing cabin fever are willing to do to survive the brutal winter. Let's talk about certain situations that the Wendigo surprisingly did not turn up, and that this is why skeptics claim that the Wendigo does not exist. Valley Forge, for example. For 6 months, the Continental Army had to face a brutal winter without significant supplies, which caused thousands of soldiers to die. However, none of the soldiers turned to cannibalism, and the Wendigo's spirit did not appear, which is very surprising. Most skeptics claim that this is a good reason to deny the existence of the Wendigo. However, during World War II, there were definitely many cases where Axis and Allied forces were forced to spend significant time trapped in warm cabins and houses without food, causing them to turn to cannibalism or starve to death. Now, the one thing that I, the Dark Lord, wonder is this. Does human flesh even taste good to the Wendigo, or even anybody, or does it even have a taste? You could also ask vampires if blood even tastes good, or even if it has a certain taste, or do they just eat it regardless of the taste? The same question could be asked to the Wendigo. Does human flesh taste good? Hopefully you will never have to know the answer to that question, I'm just saying. Does the Wendigo only feast on the flesh of humans? Or does it feast on the flesh of animals and rodents as well? I guess since it's the Wendigo, it can feast on anything fleshy, wet, and bloody. I guess you could probably compare it to the Creeper from Jeepers Creepers. Let's watch a clip from that for a moment. You could also ask, which organs and body parts does the Wendigo prefer to eat? The most tender parts, I would say muscles, the liver, and of course the eyeballs would be the most scrumptious, meatiest, and desirable parts. Now, did you know that the Wendigo also has an arch nemesis besides humans, of course? There is a creature that is basically half human, half Wendigo, called the Baycock. Apparently the Baycock is the Wendigo's biggest enemy, even more opposed to it than human beings, because apparently it desires human and animal flesh more than Wendigos. Baycocks are created when a Homo sapien warrior dies after committing shameful acts, such as inbreeding and incest. Their spirit is unable to pass on to the afterlife because their bones and skull are scattered into a lake by the ones they have shamed. Baycocks, like Wendigos, also have a thin, frail skeletal appearance and contain glowing eyes in their sunken sockets similar to that of the Mothman. They are known to wear ragged clothing they wore when they were killed, typically the clothing worn by a lost hunter. The Baycocks and the Wendigos also have many similar hunting abilities and personalities, such as piercing screams, endless hunger, and unnatural strength, making them truly dangerous foes to one another. As with the Mothman, Nessie, and other creatures I have researched, in addition with movies, there are many books that discuss the Wendigo legend, such as, well, The Wendigo, The Curse of the Wendigo, and The Wrath of the Wendigo. However, with the exception of Supernatural and Lost Tapes, there are not many TV shows based solely on the legend of the Wendigo due to its elusive nature and the fact that most people are not even aware of the existence of the Wendigo for that precise reason. However, there is one more movie called Ravenous, released in 1999, that does contain a scenario based mainly on the Wendigo. Let's take a look at that movie for a moment.
California, Fort Spencer. We have 4 missing soldiers, Captain, and no bodies. We need a supportable explanation.
Captain John Boyd is about to discover
No one just ends up at Fort Spencer. We come for a reason. Yours being?
well, something he never imagined.
We have a great sense of camaraderie here at Fort Spencer.
This Indian scout told me a curious story.
Wendigo. It's an old Indian myth from the north.
Man eats the flesh of another. He absorbs the other man's strength.
Now, one man must choose
We need others.
between having dinner
Not me.
and being dinner.
Good gracious.
That's so annoying.
Stew a la Major Knox.
Guy Pearce,
I'm gonna kill him.
Robert Carlyle,
He was tough, but then a good soldier ought to be.
Jeffrey Jones,
I'll bring you into the fold.
What's wrong?
David Arquette,
There's no guilt. I gotta eat. It's tough making friends.
Eat to live. Don't live to eat. That was really sneaky.
Ravenous,
The Wendigo is probably not something you would come across in the middle of the wilderness, even when it's during winter. There are not exactly sightings of it like there are Bigfoot or the Loch Ness Monster or even Mothman sightings. There are not really eyewitness reports of people who have actually seen the Wendigo in its natural environment. And that is another reason most deny its existence. You have to be in a certain scenario at a certain time to come across the Wendigo, but like I have said before, in modern day times, Wendigo stories are dying out due to the evolution of mankind in the present day. So, we are left to wonder, is the Wendigo just tales told to frighten the gullible, or do they still exist to this very day? Join me next time, my friends, when I begin the discussion that is totally out of this world. Ciao, bitches.